Hey guys, it's me JP, and before we get started on this video and everything, I just wanted to tell you a couple of things. One, thank you so much for the support I've gotten over my 3 videos and everything. I really appreciate it from you. It means the world that people like the videos and all that. Number two, as for my next video after this one, it's gonna be everything wrong with Tonysonic's Mario and Luigi Partners in Time video. So stay tuned for that once a script and everything is made. And number three, as much as I sound like I hate him, I do not hate Tonysonic. I'm just making this for the sake of review and everything, and just to point out the stuff and everything that he says about this rant. Now, for anyways, let's get started. So for context here, Tonysonic made a video about pretty much Tori 5's Everything Wrong with Sonic Colors Ultimate and the DS one. And in the majority of it, he's just basically complaining about everything, doing his little he just tantrums and everything, being biased, a hypocrite, the usual stuff. But then we get to the part that really just makes me scratch my head a lot, and it really shows.
You know what? Before I move on, I'm actually going to go on another rant. Not about the video, but about the fan base, and why it's actually your fault the franchise is the way it is. I'm not going to bother with how the franchise got the black eye that was 06, because that's ancient history by now, but I will talk about the aftermath. You see, Sega tried to move on from 06. During the next 3 years, they gave us big adventures with serious stories, and in a couple cases, multiple playable characters. They tried what they had done before, but with much better results than 06, but no! Back then, they weren't even given a chance at being good, because of one game being a failure. One singular f***ing game. It didn't matter how good or bad these games actually were, because 06 was bad, Sonic was bad, and these are all Sonic games, therefore they were bad, with only one getting a mediocre rating. It wasn't until Sega buckled down and made Colors the practically perfect game that it is, and then punched you all in the face with it, that you all finally lost your Sonic hate goggles and gave the game a proper review. Because of Color's positive reception, Sega thought this is what you wanted, and you got more with Generations, which was also praised. And then Sega thought to themselves, okay, we got a perfectly good trilogy that used the same formula, let's spice it up for the next game and try something new. And thus, they made Lost World, which was the most divisive Sonic game ever. Well, it does have its fans, myself included. Most fans were outright appalled by Lost World, which discouraged Sega from making another game like it and straying from the Boost formula. Ignoring Sonic Boom, as that's a whole can of worms that's entirely Sega's fault. With the main games, they immediately retreated back to what they thought you all loved from Colors and Generations and brought Mania and Forces to life. Mania, as we all know, was praised to high heaven, but Forces, that got the shots hard due to a mixture of its own problems, and all of a sudden you guys changing your minds and wanting the stuff from the old games back. When you rejected everything before. In fact, this whole entire era of Sonic has split the fanbase in the worst way possible. The Boost fans, who are the only chill and content fans, the classic fans who won't stop sucking off Mania and begging Sega to make a sequel, and the Adventure fans who are practically screaming at Sega to go back and make Adventure 3, when that era has been dead and buried for almost 2 decades now. All of this is without consideration for why we're here in the first place. Many have called Sega the bad guy in this regard, but while they're by no means innocent, they only acted in this direction because of how you guys reacted to their previous actions. You wouldn't let them move on from 06. You didn't accept anything they put out during the Dark Age, and you rejected Lost World like the plague, and as a result, we lost everything. Multiple playable characters, dark and serious stories, everything that people used to love about the older games was torn away for an entire decade because of you!
Okay, then my turn. To start off with the first point, what was the point of including this in Sonic Colors Ultimate and everything? What was the point of this? You could have just made this its own separate video and everything, and it would have made more sense. That's something I wanted to get out of the way. But as for the real number one point, you say that it's the fans' fault for everything that's happened to Sega and everything and its downfall. Yet you never consider the possibility that maybe it's Sega's fault for making this how it was and everything. Granted, they acted that way and listened to the fans and everything, but here's the main argument I have. Execution. And what I mean by that is how Sega executed those ideas that they got from the fans and everything. For an example, imagine you're making Sonic Forces and everything, and the fans want an edgy story of some sort. An edgy dark story. That's the concept and everything. But then how Sega executed that is how we got Sonic Forces with being over the top and everything, and not exactly being I wouldn't exactly say accurate, or a makes sense kind of dark story rather than just being edgy like Shadow the Hedgehog. Hence the reason why people are always blaming Sega and everything and being angry about it. Number 3, for the video game examples you gave of it, there's only one I pretty much agree with, and that being Unleashed, with maybe the exception of Sonic and the Black Knight, because I was pretty good at best and everything, and Sonic Generations. As the other reasons, the reason that people hated Sonic and the Secret Rings, for an example, is because of how the gameplay and everything was extremely busted and didn't exactly go well. Again, a story may be good and everything, but if the core aspect, the gameplay, doesn't work and everything, it isn't fun, then obviously you're gonna be getting those bad reviews for a reason. And I'm not alone in this. Literally, many people have said the controls are bad. For an example,
feeling so sluggish to control. Sometimes the controls just don't cooperate, which is often a problem with the Wii in and of itself, but some of the more minor things, like the speed of turning and the time it takes to come to a complete stop, those are things that you do eventually gain upgrades for, but when you start on a new file, it's trash.
I can't believe I'm forced to tilt left and right to move. This is awful. And I thrust the remote forward to spin dash. Can't wait for this to not work in actual levels.
One just being the worst. I can do it fine in the main game, but with this camera angle, I have no idea what I'm doing wrong.
Keep the Wii remote tilted back toward yourself to back up.
That clip really looks like I'm fucking it up big time, but I swear, I was doing it normally, and something about that camera angle was screwing with the game.
Move the Wii remote up and down to fly upwards.
I'll let you try and figure out how to do this. I'm so happy that I know how to do it. Is this how it does? Is this how you do it, actually? Yeah, you gotta put vigor into it. Come on. Shake. Yes. This is the worst thing I've ever seen!
and these are just 4 examples I found and everything online. There's literally like multiple channels and everything that have complained about Sonic and the Secret Rings and that its controls are terrible. And in some cases, it can apply to Sonic and Black Knight, but it's slightly better, and also the story is great too. But even then, I can see why people didn't exactly enjoy those games back then. Even in some cases now, even if the stories are pretty good and everything. Now, as for Unleashed, that's where I have a positive and a negative. The positive being yes, that people really gave Sonic Unleashed a lot of hate and everything, and that was unnecessary. But on the other hand, you have the warehouse segments and everything, which were pretty much blah and everything, and then you have, in some cases, the frame rate being not exactly the best and everything. So in some cases, I can agree and disagree. But as for Sonic Colors, and you saying the perfect game as it is, I don't know. I don't know exactly about the perfect game. Definitely not a bad game, but perfect in everything it is? I question that. And I can literally show some examples from a certain YouTuber that enlightened me about.
I see this game. I have to question how people can defend this level design.
Oh man, this is the best 3D Sonic game ever made! What exhilarating gameplay! If they want to focus on platforming for Sonic, that is fine, and I feel like Sonic Lost World, I'm probably someone who likes Lost World more than most people. It works in that game because at least Sonic kind of has a bit more of a unique moveset to kind of work with the level design, and he doesn't have a proper boost feature. But since in this game, he still is based around the boost gameplay style, all this slow platforming just never feels like it works. It's just boring. I want to boost. I want to go really, really fast like the previous Sonic game that came out before it. But the game constantly takes that away from me and makes me do really, really exhilarating puzzles like this one. Isn't this one fun?
And that's one example from this video. It's not even counting the other times that she has literally said in this video that Sonic Colors and everything has its problems, a lot of it and everything. So, it was great back then and everything. I don't know about perfect, but over the years and everything, it's definitely gotten a bit more negative. And even then, with Sonic Colors Ultimate coming out just a couple years ago, it fundamentally made it have a bit of a negative reception even more because of the glitches and all that. So perfect, that's a little bit of a far-fetched. But just like I said with Unleashed, it's definitely not bad. Now, as for Lost World and why everyone was split apart and everything, some people liking it, some people don't and everything, it's mainly because of its own problems. Again, some of the Deadly Six not exactly being the greatest villains ever and being one-note and everything, the gameplay sometimes being a little bit boring, and some of the level design not exactly being enriching enough to be considered a great level design. Not the worst, but definitely not great either. And I have one YouTuber that can explain it better than ever I can with Sonic Lost World. And his name starts with Radical Soda.
Feel like springs. Can you, I don't know, let me maybe jump over the gaps, so I feel like I'm playing? Hey, why is this capsule floating above the ground? Something to do? What the hell do I mean to do here? Do I take him back? Ha-ha!
I'm gonna need a mani, a pedi, and an avocado paper scrap this 4th day.
Man, oh man, you guys sure do know how a woman thinks. Great writing, guys. It was great writing. Also great level design! Wow, a boss fight as the snowball. That's, fun. And inventive? So essentially you just have to hit the snowman without the bombs when they hit, something made much harder to do with the angle the camera gives you. Did I just hear a goddamn banjo? I didn't realize there was a banjo back before. Also, she has not moved in the direction her legs are.
Gotta go. Tell me.
What? Who wrote this shit? Who animated this shit?
And as I said before, and these are only like a few examples that I got from the video compared to the multitude of like things he pointed out and everything. So I highly recommend you check out Radical Soda's video on Sonic Lost World in its entirety and everything to get the full context in here of why Sonic Lost World is so divisive. Now, as for Sonic Forces, the same thing could apply to Sonic Lost World, except on a more negative aspect, like Sonic's been saying, about how like it's bad and everything, the story elements, and how people want stuff for the old games back. But what exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean by like how it was like after 06 and everything, before 06, and the classic ones? Like, he never like specifies which one, because there's pretty much like the classic ones, the adventure ones, and then pretty much the 06 one and everything, and then like the modern one. He never specifies. But yeah, Sonic Forces really is bad and everything. Number 3, and the most important one, how tonysonic says about everyone wanting a sequel to Sonic Mania and Sonic Adventure 3. Now, as for Sonic Mania, of course people are wanting a sequel to Sonic Mania and everything. Of course that's why people are asking Sega for that. Like, come on, it's Sonic Mania. Like you said, it's like praise to high heaven and back and everything. It's like the greatest like game ever. Like, it's the greatest Sonic game ever. How can you really blame people for wanting a sequel to that game? That's like if Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 did great and everything, and then you wanted a sequel and everything, but you were like trashing on people, saying like you'll never get a sequel and everything. But why not? The games did great and everything, so why would there not be a sequel? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And as for Sonic Adventure 3, this one just makes me even more furious and everything, considering he's just insulting people that want a Sonic Adventure 3 by saying like, oh, it's dead and everything, it was from a long time ago for 2001, there's no way they can make a Sonic Adventure 3. It's like, you're saying that like it isn't possible. Again, there have been sequels to other games and everything that people never thought they were going to get a sequel for. For example, Crash 4, it's about time and everything. After literally years and years of being absent with Crash 1, 2, and 3, we finally got like a true sequel to Crash, which is Crash 4, like I said. And also, he even like makes it even more broad and everything in one of his other videos and everything. More specifically, his ranking on the Sonic games.
I'm really kind of angry at the people who love this game so much that they keep begging Sega for Adventure 3. Guys, you are never getting Adventure 3. Heroes in 06 are not Adventure 3. They are different games that only share similarities to Adventure 1 and 2. No matter what Izuka says, you are not getting Sonic Adventure 3. And if by some miracle you do, it's either gonna suck or not live up to the expectations you set on it for the past 20 years. You end up sad either way, so stop the pointless begging and play the great games you do get. Okay, bye.
So pretty much from what I can gather is that if we were to get a Sonic Adventure 3, you're pretty much saying it's gonna suck and everything. That just hurts, man. Like, what? You don't have to go that far, man. That's just hurtful. You say like the Sonic fans and everything are like toxic, yet you ain't different from them, okay? You're pretty much one of the same. But to pretty much make a point or everything, you pretty much shouldn't be insulting people that want a sequel to a game and everything. It's just not cool, man. But all in all, this rant was just pointless, man. It was just, I say pointless because like it should have not been in something like Sonic Colors Ultimate, Everything Wrong with Chori 5, for an example. It should have been its own separate video, and it really shows. So the next time you do a rant and everything, either make the rant not that long and everything, or just like make it separate. That's all I want. And I know that like tonysonic has moved on from the Everything Wrong with series and is doing something new, and I at least can appreciate that. But considering this video came out a couple months ago, it's still relevant and everything, and it just feels like I needed to point that out. But that said, thank y'all so much for watching this and everything and taking the time out of your day to watch it. And I'll see you in my Everything Wrong with Tonysonic's Mario and Luigi Partners in Time video. Okay then, have a nice night, and bye-bye.